Good. Right. Okay. Hello, everybody. Can I all warmly welcome you to our Designing Diversity event here at NCAD, which is a closing event of Design Week 2022 here in Ireland. My name's Alex Milton, and I'm the head of the School of Design here at NCAD and the institutional lead for the Creative Futures Academy, which is a new €10 million initiative to support the development and training of creative practitioners. Before I start, I always have to do the sort of housekeeping. Can I point out the fire escapes? And just remind you that after the talks, we've got drinks and food in the foyer outside. So warmly welcome you to join us after that. And we're going to be doing a series of sort of presentations this evening, and an opportunity for sort of questions and answers, and then maybe more informal questions and answers over some drinks. Now, tonight's event is going to sort of discuss the design sector here in Ireland and how we can collectively foster a culture of inclusion. It's absolutely critical that we collectively work together to diversify Irish design, support designers marginalised by racism, sexism, homo and transphobia, class, ableism and other systems of exclusion. This event marks the formal launch of NCAD's new CFA Postgraduate Certificate in Creative Diversity, commencing in 2023, along with NCAD's new modules in Designing Diversity. And I'm delighted to say that they've been developed and delivered in partnership with DesignOpp. And Greg and Mick are going to talk through some of that sort of processes. And I know we've got some of the DesignOpp's community in the room today. So huge call out to Grace and some of her colleagues. You'll find sort of more details of some of the initiatives and some of the programs we're going to be offering in this space in the pamphlet that was on your seat when you came in. So I'd like to really sort of start by saying that, design's got the capacity to generate shared language and connect people and communities. It offers powerful means for conveying ideas and shaping experiences across boundaries. Today, we see these forms resonate more than ever in a multilingual, culturally heterogeneous and digitally interconnected spaces around the globe. But there's a striking lack of diversity in the design sector, especially in Ireland. Design schools, studios and agencies do not reflect contemporary Irish society. So tonight we're going to discuss how the design sector can collectively foster a culture of inclusion that welcomes difference, promotes agency and facilitates shared community building. We need to enable long marginalised voices to join and substantively transform our design discourses and engage with global perspectives and create a more expansive spectrum of design cultures, practices and competencies. So without further ado, I'm going to begin by introducing Mick Chikandra. Mick is co-founder of DesignOpp. He's a Black Irish designer based in Ireland, creating holistic brands for local and international clients. His fantastic work encompasses editorial design, logo, brand identity, consulting, graphic design, advertising, and so much more. And his life experiences as a Black designer in Ireland gave birth to DesignOpp. So, Mick.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to DesignOpp and CFA. And my name is Mick Chikandra, as Alex has just mentioned. I'm a Black POC designer, co-founder of DesignOpp. I was born in Zimbabwe, a country in the southern Africa. I was born during the time of colonization. So it used to be called Rhodesia. All right. So this is me, born in Zimbabwe. I'm currently a Zimbabwean Irish citizen. I've lived in Ireland for quite some time. And where I come from, growing up as a young kid, I was inspired by paintings that we used to see and drawings that we used to see. So Zimbabwe is one of the countries that has got most of the cave paintings that were painted long, maybe 20,000 years ago. So we have about 300,000 cave paintings in Zimbabwe. And where I was born, it's like about 50 kilometers away from where the major cave paintings are. So it runs in the blood with the design and the creativity in me. I come from a line of kings of illustration and artists. And then the next slide, this is Zimbabwe. And the name of Zimbabwe comes from the Great Zimbabwe. This is the Great Zimbabwe that was built in from the 7th to the 15th century. And it's a great piece of architect. The name, the original name is in Shona, it's called Zimbabwe, meaning houses of stone. So if you look closely, back in the day, like this was built in the 7th to the 15th century. You can see even from the styles of design. And if you are to fast forward and bring it today, the architect that was there, this is one of the most celebrated pieces of architect, and it's just as good as the pyramids in Egypt. So these are some of the ruins that are found around the country, and from the 7th century. And you can see the chevron patterns. That some of you, if you are to Google the chevron pattern right now, you discover that the chevron pattern, they talk that it was discovered in the 16th century, and they believe that it originated from Greece, but this was built in the 7th century in Africa. And so we need to balance those skills when we talk about diversity in design, re-educate and decolonize the design education. And this is some of the designs. Those who are familiar with from different schools of design, they will know all these types of patterns, the chessboard, and the chevron and the herringbone. And definitely you've seen this in your everyday lives, some of the patterns in the floors, in the kitchens, wherever. I believe we have them in our everyday lives. So if you are to rewind and try and learn more about design, you'll discover that design has always been flexible and spread around the world. And the chevron, it has been used as well, like in different design patterns, like for designing logos for different this type of things, even in the modern world. This is one of the biggest companies in the NH sector. Okay, enough about the history. And that was just me introducing myself and where I come from the creative background. So now to the real issue, what brings us today. Diverse design matter. I just decided, I didn't know how to bring this presentation, whether to take the Black Lives Matter movement or to bring the design history and incorporate it with the modern world, the African design history. But I said, since I'm a social design activist as well, that is reflected with the startup of the DesignOpp. So we say design, I just thought of coming up with a diverse design matter. Diversity, this is what brings us today. We'll be launching a course, as Alex mentioned, in creative in diversity. So these are some of the touch points in diversity: age, gender, religion, culture, disability, gender, and sexual orientation. And if you notice, people have been suffering, discriminated by certain people in the society through ageism, gender, religion, culture, and disability. So when we are to bring, if we're to bring this course, definitely we'll be bringing it. We'll be bringing it. We'll be trying to balance the scales for everyone, touching different all these touch points. And if we can go to the next one, race. I'll talk about race because from where I come from and my experience as a Black person, I think it will be suitable for me to discuss on diversity in design and creativity with race. Okay, how it has been. How it has been, it hasn't been an easy road. It has been difficult for anyone of color, Black people and POCs, when it comes to design and creativity. And if you look at the brands or any services that have been put out there, they are not balanced. And brands and the Black people and the POC culture people, we have trust issues. There's segregation, there's stereotype, lack of empathy, disconnection between brands and services and people. It's only like, it seems like the services and the brands are created for a certain group of people, and a certain group of people are ignored. That can also apply to the other diversity groups in terms of religion and race and gender. So lack of inclusiveness. Okay, so when you talk about the stereotype that we mentioned in what has been happening, this is something that shocked the world recently and is still fresh on people's minds. If you close this side, you'll see that this is a young man, was given a t-shirt, so it was given a jumper that's written survival experts. And this one, coolest monkey in the jungle. And this is H&M, a big brand that is one of the top 5 clothing suppliers in the world. And you ask yourself, with the budget that they have and the marketing teams and all the brands that they're involved with, how come they missed it? Even the creative director, when they were choosing the jumpers to give the young lads to wear, how did they miss all this? When someone was marking it off, how did someone miss it? And then you ask yourself, are we involved? Are we included in the movement of creativity in the design or in the whole branding space or the whole industry? That's when you realize that the skills are still unbalanced. We go to the next one. There was a why cry on the net. These are some of the screenshots that were taken from Twitter. People were disgusted. Inappropriate, offensive, racist, not accepted. And there's one that I like here. Every company should invest in training that encompasses cultural competence and sensitivity. It is absolutely necessary. H&M. Some people were even saying they will never spend their money with such a big brand that doesn't look at people in the same way as equals. We recently just had the Kanye West and the Jewish community, and he has lost a lot of money from a billionaire to just he's a nobody now. His music is being taken away, it's being taken offline, and they survived. Nothing happened to them. A simple apology and everything moved. So we need to embrace diversity in creativity, bring people of color, bring people of different genders, religion to our boardrooms, to our brainstorming sessions, so that they understand before we are to take out whatever campaigns we're creating or services that we're creating. And this is a big shop in the Southern Africa. It's more like Boots when you compare it here in Ireland. It's called Clicks, and this is a major brand as well, Tresemme. They were advertising a product for Tresemme about hair, black person's hair. I don't need to say it out. And this happened like less than 2 years ago. And unfortunately, because of the way citizens in South Africa went through apartheid, they had to march to the shops. They did it as well for H&M. They shut down the malls, and it caused a lot of damage. Over what? Unnecessary thinking, decisions made by a few people and an incomplete a team of creatives, which is selective, not looking at other people. So this is what we're trying to talk about. Like, there is a disconnection between the industry, the creative industry, the brands, and everyone. That's when you end up getting such campaigns. And they just came out and simply said, we are sorry, and they took Tresemme out of their shops. But it was approved by a number of people. And those who have worked in the marketing department or with the marketing sector, you know a campaign will never just pass overnight. It has to go through maybe 5 or 10 rounds of, oh, maybe we don't like the canning, we don't like the balancing. I guess they were not looking at the message. They were just looking at the images, they were laughing. To the next one. And our beloved Gucci, for those who are into luxury goods. This is Gucci. Everyone was appalled, the world was shocked. The best that Gucci could come up with was an apology again. So it seems like some brands are out there to create controversy and then get the attention, the world media attention, and then later on, they come up with an apology. And you can even see here, the last line, they say, we consider diversity to be a fundamental value to be fully upheld. Gucci, one of the most expensive brands, and they had to come up with a campaign like this. It brings back to the question, are we really moving forward, or we're still lagging behind the 60s or during the time of slavery? Because this was a mockery to the Black community. Benefits of diversity. if a brand or any institution, organization is to apply diversity and inclusion, this is what they will gain in terms of the benefits, innovation and creativity, because there will be different cultures mixing, bringing different ideas, understanding each other. For those who are into finance, I believe every organization believes in making money, so the financial performance tends to be better as well. Staff retention, we're at NCAD here, this is a college. Student retention as well. And then we have productivity, improves the productivity and engagement and reputation. We would respect the previous brands that I showed you now after what you have seen. Reputation is damaged, but there are some people who don't care about such things. So are they enablers, or they just don't care? So reputation plays a major part when diversity is applied. And companies with more diverse leadership teams report higher innovation revenue. This is taken from the BCG Diversity and Innovation Survey from 2017 to 2018. It says if you bring people from diverse groups, these are the results that you end up with. You can see that these are companies with lesser diverse group, and these are the results. So the numbers don't lie. So it shows that if we're to embrace what we're trying to achieve here, design would be a better place. Clients, and this one is from the source from DBA and the UK website as well. When clients were asked how they feel about working with teams from without diverse group and with the diverse people, most clients, 67% of clients say agencies stated that diversity is an important issue when selecting and working with agencies. I've been watching some YouTube videos. Some people, they say when they are to give a contract out, they ask the company that they're dealing with, whether it's a production team, they ask them, can we see the number of staff that you have? They want to see if the company is balanced well in terms of diversity. They want to see if it's the camera team that is coming to shoot a video or an advert. They want to see how many people of color or how many people of different genders or anything, so that they know that they are working with a company that is moving forward for a better world. How it has to be. Network. It's great we're here today. That's a sign of networking. And we have to get funding. Funding helps in research and increases data and all other things that are important in helping the industry to move forwards. And the curriculum for students, we need to improve the curriculum, decolonize the current curriculum so that we can get better results that involve diversity. And then we need to be appreciated. Our design has to be appreciated, it has to be acknowledged. Just as I showed you the first two slides when I was talking about the history of Zimbabwe, that history has been lost. I came here to Ireland. When I started studying design, I was only taught one way of design, which when I look at it, I ask myself, so where I come from, there is no design, which means we are just like following people. It's just as, if you are not appreciated, you ask yourself like, am I doing the right thing, or I'm just following the mob? So currently it seems we're following the mob. So we need black design or diverse design to be appreciated so that people can respect us, and then celebrated. Once we're appreciated, it's easy for us to be celebrated. Young kids who are growing up will feel inspired to know that I want to grow up and be like so and so, because they have seen someone of color or someone who belongs to a certain group of diversity. And then education as well. We have to educate people every day, and brands and companies, about the importance of diversity. Let's connect, embrace, and reflect. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mick. Our next speaker is Greg Osborne. So Greg is a co-founder of DesignOpp, as an Irish-based branding and design consultant. His role in DesignOpp is to oversee educational progress and focus on curriculum change and in-school activities. So, Greg.
How you all doing? So, as Mick gave a wonderful speech and presentation there, and that I'm one of the co-founders of DesignOpp. I'm brand and design consultant, have been for the last 7, 8 years, I think. So, go to the next slide. That's me. I had more hair then, and, a lot more now. So, I'm originally from a small, next slide there, Mark. A small place across the pond called London. I've been living here in Ireland 24 years, September gone, okay? So my mother is Galwegian, and my dad is from a place called Montserrat, and you'll see at the next slides. So in London, I was from a place called Islington, okay? So very cosmopolitan, lots of cultural differences, and as you know, to make alluded to there, there's a massive gap within of diversity within the educational system and marketing agencies and stuff. But in London, it's so diverse. You're used to growing up with people that are different races. We celebrate different things like Diwali and Chinese New Year. So it's in our blood to grow up with diverse groups. So if we go on to the next slide. So this is the island of Montserrat. Okay, this is where my dad is from. So this is a small island in the Caribbean. Where if you see at the far side, there was a volcano eruption in 1996, so that's the pyroclastic flow. So the reason why I'm showing you this now is because this is the only place outside of Ireland where St. Patrick's Day is a national holiday, okay? But it's not celebrated. It's not celebrated at all. There's no recognition at all in history within Galway. So when Cromwell, if you go on to the next slide, then, when Cromwell invaded Ireland in the 17th century, he gave some of the Irish or Galwegian, shall we say, landowners some land on Montserrat. So on St. Patrick's Day in the 1600s, I think it was, the white Irish slaves and the black African slaves tried to overthrow the slave masters, and they were caught out and hung. And so on this day, St. Patrick's Day, they celebrate the slave uprising and St. Patrick's Day. It's a week-long celebration, but this isn't celebrated anywhere at all in the Irish Museum. So that's one of my to-dos. So the next slide then. So creativity, okay? I wasn't fantastic at school. My Leaving Cert wasn't great, or GCSE as we call it, but I loved Lego. I loved building stuff. I loved making stuff and thinking, and the tactility of it and how things go together. And my brain works in a 3D sense where I can walk into a room and see how things fold and how things will exist after we create them. So Lego was a massive part of my childhood, and I teach my kids that as well, that kind of 3D thinking. So we go to the next slide there. So school life in London. So as I said, school wasn't a great time for me in school. I wasn't great at academically. But if you go to the next slide, the GCSEs, the only thing that I did really well in was art and design. If you go to the next slide, which I got a C on. So that was where my career veered towards art and design. And if you go to the next slide. And after school, I left to do a GNVQ in art and design, and this was 1997. So a while ago. I'm showing my age here. So we go on to the next slide. So with the art and design thing, we got a guy called Neil Cotton, and he was from Southgate College. And I didn't know what graphic design was or design. I had a kind of sense of it, but when he came and told me about design and you can have a career of it, I said, okay, yeah, I can, and you can do packaging. So I said, well, I have the Lego, and I can build stuff, and I can make stuff. So this course would be great for me. So I took this course, and I did fantastically well at it. Really loved it. If you go to the next slide. And then after that, this was 1998. So I moved over to Ireland and worked in various roles and jobs. But I always had a passion for design. That was always in my blood, and it was also something I wanted to pursue as a career. So I went back to study graphic design in college in Athlone. If you go to the next slide, in 2007. Go to the next slide. So with that, it was a BA in visual communication at Athlone College, which is changed now, obviously. So it was a 3-year course, but I went to the second year of a 3-year course, and then after that, I did an honours degree in graphic design. Okay, so go to the next slide. And then this is professional design practice, and I did this in DIT, and that's where I met Mick. And with what Mick touched on with diversity and in an academic sense, when I was going through college, particularly here in Ireland, you very rarely see people that look like you, both from the faculty and the student body. And these are the things that we want to change. We want to, I suppose, rattle the cage and hold people account to why this isn't happening. Okay, so but it was, I suppose, me and Mick were the only people of colour, and another one wasn't there. There's about 3 people of colour in this course. So if we move on to the next slide, Emma. So after graduating from the MA in Professional Design Practice, I could never see myself, not that I didn't want to go into an agency, I just felt like I like working and creating stuff on my own and being self-sufficient. So I became a design consultant, and I started out, the next slide. I developed my company in 2013, We Can Imagine, okay? So I actually had a name before this, and it used to be called, before I rebranded, and it used to be called I Speak English, Graphic Design Solutions. That's what it used to be called. And that was before I got into branding. But the reason why I did that, because when I was working in lots of retail jobs here in Ireland, I would always get asked, do you speak English? Do you speak English? They said, oh, you have great English. And there was one particular time when I was delivery to a house, and a lady house came out. She said, how long have you been in Ireland? I said, 2 or 3 years. And she said, so how are they treating you? Good, yeah, grand, not a problem. She said, Jesus, you have great English. I said, it kind of helps being born in London. And you can see that when robots kind of just short circuit, she didn't know what to do. But I never regard it as racism, I regard it as ignorance. Because we have to change those paradigms where a person of colour can be Irish, a person of colour can be British, or from England, from London, let's say. So that was the last name, but there was a lot of issues with regards to branding with that name, and it was more of a reaction to something as opposed to design being collaborative. So I came up with this name and I copyrighted it, and We Can Imagine. Design is about imagine the future. So we go to the next slide then. So the formation of DesignOpp. Okay, there's us 3 founders here in the room. So Mick, myself, and lovely Grace. So Mick came to me in 2020 with an idea for DesignOpp, and I said I've known Mick for many years, and sounded fantastic. And obviously, it was issues that we had that I'd dealt with, and we went to the IDI and we presented the idea, and we got the backing of that, and the rest is kind of history. But we're going to change history. That's the point of this. To change history for my daughter, Mick's children, and Grace had children, for everyone of colour, so they can see people like me, like Mick and like Grace, in positions of not only being a freelance designer, but an agency owner, a CEO. It makes a difference. So if you can see it, you can be it. If we go on to the next slide. So this is our lovely logo and our brand created by one of our designers, and fantastic design opportunity. And even creating that, and there was lots of back and forth, but we all agreed that this is a lovely creative mark that kind of exemplified what we're about. Okay, so we go on to so really we work from these 3 areas: education, opportunity, and community. Okay, and as Alex has mentioned, I myself and Mick, we work in the educational part of it, and the opportunity where we're creating opportunities for designers of colour, and the community where we have things like Drink and Draw, and we have online communities where we have lots of stuff going on online. So with regards to education, we go on to the next slide. But actually, the purpose of DesignOpp is to champion diversity in Irish design, so that people of colour can fulfil their creative potential. Okay, so people like me, Mick, and Grace, and other people of design of colour can fulfil their creative potential. Because from my own research, when a person of color goes into an agency, they can sometimes be the go-to person on issues of race and issues of things where we are not spokespeople for a whole race of people, and that's it. So we have to be conscious of that. And if we're hiring people of color, we're hiring more than one. We're hiring 3 or 4, and I think in NCAD they call it cluster hires. So we create a kind of community, but it's also not about hiring, it's about retention. How do we retain people of color in our agencies? Do we create safe and spaces for them where they can be themselves, but where they can speak out on issues? Okay, so the next slide there. So our vision is to create a world where our design is reflective of diversity in our society. Okay, so design is about creating products and services really for people. Okay, so if our agencies are not reflective of our society, are we truly designing? We're not understanding who we're designing for. So our agencies need to reflect that. Okay. The next slide. So the mission, to create platforms that change perceptions of what modern Irish design can be. Okay. So one of the platforms we've gone through is the educational platform. So Mark, this is, as Alex alluded, this is a good night for us, a big night for where we're talking about the design and diversity module. We're working with NCAD and CFA. Okay. So this is a big moment, and it's a moment where we get a chance to actually make change and actually change the more decolonize the design history education. Because when I was going through college, even in London and Ireland, I didn't see or we didn't learn about any designers that looked like me. It was Saul Bass, Stefan Zagmeister, Paula Scher, Mike Cleary, all designers that didn't look like me. Okay. And didn't look like any of my family. So there's always that gap where you feel, is that attainable for me? You know, and that one of the things that if I got a chance to change this, which I have now, we have now, is to take that chance. So if we go on to the next slide here. So some of the activities for the module, for the course we're creating, is students will be involved with the development of products and campaigns, digital, physical, and service design focus, in class discussions with lecturers and external organization members, gaining the foundational knowledge of design history that is more diverse, honest, and inclusive, and one that has been decolonized. Okay, so you get that notion. There's that word that's used within organizations like DesignOpp, where we're trying to decolonize the educational system or design education system, and that's it's a big job, but it's a job that we have the strength to do. Okay, so with that said, that's the end of my presentation.
Great. Thanks so much, Greg. And our last speaker this evening, I'm absolutely delighted that Dr. Jacinda Walker is joining us and dialing in from the United States. Jacinda is renowned for work in design, diversity, research and strategy. She's a founder and creative director of DesignExplorr, a social impact organisation whose mission addresses the diversity gap within the design profession. Her research and design journey, strategies for increasing diversity in design disciplines, was a real breakthrough piece of work. And the solutions-based work explores diversity in design disciplines and investigates effective strategies to expose Black and Latino youth to design careers. She's helped to scale diversity and design initiatives within education, corporations, organisations and museums. So I'm really, delighted, Jacinda, you're dialing in. And without further ado, I'll pass over to you. Thank you, Jacinda.
I don't know if you all can hear me. Should I move forward?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you, Jacinda. It's perfect.
Hi,
Just go for it.
everybody. I really, really wish I could be there. I just really wish I could be there with you all. I'm so excited for the work that you're doing and for inviting me in this very important conversation. So without ado, if it's all right, I'm going to begin my presentation.
Just go for it.
Excellent. Well, my story starts with family. I'm the oldest of 6 children. My mom was a single stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a military man, photoed here at the bottom screen. These are my 5 brothers and sisters, Damon, Adrian, Tasha, Marja, and Nicholas. You know, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, here in the United States. And for years, I served as the graphic designer for Cleveland Municipal School District. I also served as the graphic designer for Cleveland Division of Water. I also served as the designer for the Department of Public Utilities. I even got to do some projects for the mayor's office. I come from the university, I did my undergraduate work at the University of Akron, where I did a double major and a double minor. So I have a BFA in graphic design, an associate's degree in commercial art, a minor in computer imaging, and a minor in drawing. These are a few of the pieces that I designed while I was at both of these organizations, working to increase and help representation and help with customer pieces, promotional items, billboards, magazines, newsletters, all that other good stuff. But you know, I really hadn't started thinking about the status of the profession until the adored one here came to me one day, and she said, "Auntie, I want to be a designer like you." And it was in that moment, for about 2 seconds, I was really excited because all the things that I did during her childhood to expose her to creativity, to expose her to design, to expose her to the opportunities that could exist, she accepted it. But then I remembered she was going to be a designer in this profession. She was going to be a creative, where when she may have gone to the job interviews, they would have asked her questions like, "Oh my gosh, wow, I didn't know you were Black." I wondered if they were going to say things to her like, "Wow, you know, you speak so well for a Black girl. Did you go to private school?" And I just got very concerned at what that was going to be. And so I did something very drastic. I quit my good government job and I accepted a full ride scholarship to the Ohio State University to study the lack of diversity in design disciplines here in the United States. These actually are my classmates. I'm sure if you look closely, you'll see something really unique there. My research is titled Design Journeys, Strategies for Increasing Diversity in Design Disciplines. Now, this is a solutions-based thesis. It has 4 design deliverables, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those as well. But I want to kind of start you off with what I started looking at when I started researching what this problem is. And understanding the problem really made me realize that we've actually been addressing and trying to fight this problem here in the United States for more than 60 years. And I started thinking like, hey, what does the journey look like? You know, what does the problems look like? How come we're not getting any further? And so I just put together a visual representation of what I thought was happening on the journey. As a designer who had gone through the design journey herself, I just was trying to put something together so that others would be able to see it. And so the way that I understand the problem is that it deals with access, exposure, opportunities, and values. And ultimately, what we really want to be able to do to solve and to close the diversity gap in design disciplines is to be able to overlap all 4 of them so that we can get the true benefits of exposure. And people, this is like a 3-legged stool. 2 legs just aren't going to do it. We can't have access and opportunity and no value. We can't talk about value and access with no opportunities. So truly, to be able to get the benefits, we have to begin to think in a manner where all 3 legs are overlapped. And so the research deliverable number 1 is the Design Journey Map framework. This framework is a visual representation developed to help a designer map their career. It has 4 color-coded passages: foundations, proficiency, workforce, and influence. These 4 color-coded passages are protected by they are also protected by gray triangles that illustrate the gaps. This is where people and young people are having a challenge transitioning from one passage to the other. And we also call those the areas where individuals fall out. The white areas with the lines on them are the career competency components that are to be overlapped with the soft skills and the hard skills that are happening in those passages. The second deliverable are the 15 strategic ideas to close the diversity gap. They're color-coded to match the passage that they work best with. So the blue ones are for the foundations, the violet ones are for the proficiency, the green are for workforce, and the red are for the passages of influence. One of the last pieces is the design principles. These are the 4 principles that I use every day in the work at DesignExplorr to be able to make sure that the solutions, the programs, the workshops, the activities, the events, everything measures and meets these principles. We understand that what gets measured gets managed. So the first principle is comprehensive. This basically is indicating that the solution must meet multiple passages in the design journey map framework. 2, it should be collaborative. This means organizations are going to have to work with parents, and educators are going to have to work better with students, and professionals are going to have to work better with students so that we can all have the best solutions. 3 is local. This means that the solution must go directly to where the student is. We have a lot of challenges here where we have a lot of opportunities, but those opportunities put a strain and they create additional barriers for the students who are supposed to receive them simply because of a lack of access. And so to increase access and to increase equitable solutions, we must make our solutions local. And then last but never least are scholastics. Scholastics play a great deal on the journeys of future creatives. Here in the United States, if you do not pass your last semester of English, you don't graduate from high school. If you don't pass a semester of geometry, you don't graduate from high school. Being able to graduate from high school is one of the biggest things that you can first do on your journey to a creative career. And so these 4 principles are really what we've been using to measure our solutions and to make sure they're most impactful for young people. And then the last design deliverable is DesignExplorr. Our mission aims to change the face of design. We work with professionals, parents, and teachers who are all passionate about bringing diversity to the profession in a powerful way. I'm hopeful that this video plays. So give me a thumbs up if you guys do not, give me a nod or something if you do not see it. There is some talking in it, so I'm gonna press play, and Mark, maybe you'll give me a thumbs up to let me know that it's coming through well, okay?
Formally introduce to you the tube sucker. DesignExplorr is a social impact organization whose mission aims to diversify the design profession by increasing access to design education for youth and raise awareness within corporate organizations. We do this work through collaborations that develop youth activities, coordinate diversity building initiatives, and connect stakeholders to resources.
You're right for you. Wow, I think there might be a market for this.
Our #1 design goal is to empower today's youth with real-world skills, connections, and opportunities so that tomorrow's design profession has all of the best people to make it web.
Excellent, excellent. Our organizational structure is as follows. We do a host of work in the corporate space. We do consulting projects, graphic design services, public speaking. We write research reports. We write education curriculum, and lots of strategy work for organizations. We use those funds to apply them to our educational aspects. Those are our youth programs, activities, our workshops. We have a line of swag materials that we give to young people when they come to our activities and our events. We also do events indoors and outdoors. Now, DesignExplorr operates with 6 impact education modules. These 6 impact educational modules, the Design Journey Career Workshops, Design Learning Challenges, Spark 216, Type and Tech Events, Speakers Series, and Design Club, form these 7 programs. The Design Learning Challenge. This is our biggest claim to fame here, people. We go to schools, colleges, universities, we host interactive, co-participatory, intergenerational design thinking activities where young people are working to collaborate and solve a design challenge. We also are responsible for the digital design workshop series here in Cleveland, Ohio for the Cleveland Public Library systems. We also do power posters, which is our response to creating meaningful messages. We love Design Club, and what kind of organization would we be if we didn't have a design club, right? Spark 216 is an activity that we do here in Cleveland where we present science fair mixed with career day, and we give students an opportunity to come and try 6 different modules of design in one full day of activity. So each table has a different thing that students can do. We've had an opportunity to do about 3 of these, and we're looking to do more of them across the world. We're also doing Think Like a Designer workshop and the Takeover. The takeovers are our in-classroom educational materials. We also have a line of educational curriculum that we teach educators so that they too can use these methods in their K-12 classrooms. I wanted to put a little bit together about our Think Like a Designer program, because this program, we also developed our own design thinking process. And so our Think Like a Designer workshop is an interactive workshop that allows students to explore design in 3 powerful, easy steps. Now, with this Think Like a Designer workshop, we developed our own design thinking process. We looked at many across the world, and what we love about this one, because we have looked at the materials from the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt Design Museum, we looked at what IDEO was doing, we looked at what IBM was doing, we even looked at what PBS was doing for their students. And what we love about this is that it shows the human-centered aspect of design. It implies that the learning is front end and back end. It demonstrates an iterative process, and it also helps our English as a second language students. So we can learn and teach this process with images, with color, with language, and other dialects. These are some pictures of myself outside during the summer months, working with young people to do and get an opportunity to be exposed to design. We also have the Think Like a Designer, which is our creativity kit. If you go on and log onto our website, you can take a moment and see what those are about. In the kit, it has a Think Like a Designer packet. Depending on the age that you indicate on your sale, we send you the younger one or the older one. The younger one is with AJ and Ruby. We also have the kit that has scissors and markers and pencils and tons of prototyping tools. We even put some notebooks and pencils in there so that young people can kind of sketch and draw on their own. I've also had the opportunity, as I shared before, to travel and work with the Smithsonian's Cooper Hewitt Design Museum. I worked with them for about 3.5 years, where we traveled the United States, bringing design to inner city schools, as well as underserved communities. I also teach intergenerational design workshops at our Museum of Contemporary Art in Cleveland. We call it MoCA Saturdays. And so if you come down there on the weekend, I'm usually there doing design challenges with the museum based off of what activities and artists are demonstrating their work. I make design challenges off those activities so that when young people come to the museum, they'll have an opportunity to be exposed to the artistic side as well as the design side of what's happening in the museum. Now, some big things that are coming up for DesignExplorr. We have an experiential learning center that's going to be opening at the end of this month, which we're incredibly excited about. It's 1,800 square foot. The center will help young people, and they will provide a space for 18 to 26-year-olds to connect, create, grow. They'll have free access to hardware and software, and it'll prepare them for career readiness. Now, to date, we've had some really, really great milestones, I wanted to take a moment and share a few of these with you all. We've done more than 300 of these talks around the United States. This was probably one of my first international ones, so I can't wait to have questions and dialogue with all of you all. I've reached a total of 5,500 youth in the last 6 years of doing DesignExplorr. And to date, I've had more than 2,800 people download my 293-page rant on the lack of diversity in design disciplines. I'm hopeful that you all will stay in touch with me. My email address is here. You guys can find me online at DesignExplorr. And remember, we spell it real gangster with 2 R's at the end of it. And our website is DesignExplorr, as shown here on my shirt. Thank you guys so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to getting into our Q&A. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your question. First of all, the design journey map framework actually came to me as I was in graduate school, and I was trying to explain it, right? And that's really when I realized that, if you want to be a doctor, there's like a 12-step plan. If you want to be a lawyer, there's an 8-step plan. If you want to own a pizza shop, there's a plan to even do that, right? But if you wanted to be a designer, it was hard to figure out where to start. And so I just started sketching one day, like, okay, what could this thing look like? I knew I wanted it to be something where people came and gave back, but I also knew that it had to break down the sections. And the sections, I just named them off of what's happening. And so the first one is foundations, and that's what's happening in this K-12 space. The second section is proficiency. So this is where we're looking at internships, we're looking at higher education, right? Because we need our young people to get through college. We need them to get in and get through and to get an internship opportunity. And then the green area is workforce. And then the last area is influence. And ultimately, I want all of our people who are currently in influence to come back and share and talk about what happened, what worked, what didn't work. What do we need more of? Where can we place proper intervention at? And so when you ask, where do I see the most challenges at? Where and how might we apply these types of techniques and things that we've learned over here to where you all are at now? I'm here to let you know, I still think we're growing and learning. I don't think anything is solid yet. I've seen a lot of success, but when we look at the vast amount of space here in the United States, and when we look at the data, right now, Black designers are about 5%. That's about, of the 1.2 million designers that are self-identified here by the Bureau of Labor Statistics data reports, we're talking about 44,000 are Black. Like, that's a crazy, ridiculous number. So when you say, where can we start, what can we do? I gotta say everywhere. That's another reason why I stay so packed and so busy at DesignExplorr, because we try to create programs and opportunities in each of the 4 passages. Each of the 4 passages, because ultimately what I'm trying to do is to help young people and professionals transition to the next passage. So I don't believe that one passage is easier than the other. What I can tell you is the passage that has met with the most difficulty for those who are in that part right now is the proficiency passage. And so I spend a lot of time with DesignExplorr working with young people to get in the proficiency passage and then be successful and then transition to the workforce. And so I think the proficiency passage is the most challenging passage. And as far as the work that we're doing at DesignExplorr, I think it's all necessary. I think every program, I think every activity, one of the things that they say when studying wicked problems is that every try is necessary. And that's just where I'm at right now.
You know, also what I mean by that is that students, people starting in their career, people moving through their career. Design SkillNet is a specific entity that deals with people when they are working. So it's not students, it's people who are out in business, in the workforce. So there are some nuances there in terms of where we can build in supports based on, I suppose, our funding criteria for with public money. One of the things in terms of scaffolding that we are creating at the moment is a career framework, and myself and Grace were having a chat about that earlier this week. And through that, what we're looking to do is standardise the competencies and the skills that you would need at every level of a career in design. And I suppose standardise the language and how we describe those levels, because as you know, at the moment, you know, junior, mid-level, senior can mean a different thing depending on where you go. And you know, 2 jobs can be advertised as senior level or mid-level, but actually what's required in the terms of experience is completely different. So I suppose just to bring that back to where we are, I think I suppose this is a hugely informative conversation, and I think the best thing that we can do first and foremost is listen, because we have to understand where you guys want to go, you know, and how we can best support that. I think you know, I think once we work together to understand that, then we can start to look at the visibility piece, the influence piece. How do we make sure that we work hard and harder to make sure that we have that platform and that visibility there for designers of colour in everything that we're doing. So I suppose there's 2 hats, but the IDI that can start at student, you know, at student level and go all the way through to the SkillNet. We come in when people are actually out and working in the workforce, because that's what the career framework is intended to do. It's called Flow, and the idea is that it enables all designers to identify the skills and competencies that they will need at every juncture on the way, and to have those career conversations with themselves, with their family and friends, with their line managers, with HR, with L&D, to enable them on that journey. So I suppose that speaks to the professional proficiency. Once people are actually out in the workforce, I think through the IDI and through initiatives like the Big Idea, there's more we can do in terms of the proficiency pre-graduation, I suppose, before you actually step out into the workforce.
Thanks so much, Niamh. I mean, certainly moving from and talking about the sort of 3rd level education, the sort of higher education sort of context. I mean, one of the challenges is that, you know, design is often seen, particularly by 1st generation students, as being high risk, as being exclusionary, you know, that the bar is very high. You know, we're sitting here at National College of Art and Design as a history over 270 years, but it can feel elitist because it's small and specialist, and it's incredibly hard to get into. And yes, it's about excellence, but it's about inclusivity as well. And it's about creating those different access programs. And we're doing a lot of work in that space, but we've got an awful lot of work to do to try to make sure that we can ensure that we, you know, we have a faculty and a student population that represents New Ireland, you know. Greg and Mick, I'm sort of conscious that, you know, we've been on the journey, you know, over particularly maybe the last sort of year, but particularly over the last 6 months, talking about and developing, you know, a series of new sort of initiatives, and we're really delighted to be able to launch that and get to platform DesignOps. But I suppose, you know, obviously what we want to be trying to do is equip and support young designers making that journey. We also want to provide, I suppose, training for people who are often gatekeepers, you know, who inadvertently pull up the drawbridge, that they've made it and they don't see the issue. They're not necessarily advocating for their particular community. So I suppose, you know, once we get all of that in place, you know, we're going to be doing this and launching all these programs in the coming 12 months. But looking forward maybe to 5 years' time, what do you hope for from this initiative, and what do you feel, where do you think we need to be?
Yeah, a great question, and it's great that you hear from Jacinda there and the journeys of people of colour getting into the industry. Where I suppose we hope that it would be in that time is that the industry would change in a sense where we see, as I alluded to, where designers are art directors, CEOs, and that we change that pipeline, that children within secondary education see design and becoming a designer as a pathway. You know, they've talked about, you know, becoming a doctor or a lawyer, or when a doctor goes into a surgery, he's using something that's been designed. You know, and that's the thing where we have to say whether it has value. It's not. It is a career where you have can be worth something. But we do hope that this continues to expand in terms of NCD, but we also hope that it would expand further on, even within, you know, the north, even to change. And I think once, you know, it's getting the designers of colour into the industry first, and kind of dropping those barriers. So when, you know, my daughter does, if she does go into the design career, then when she sits in an interview, is that somebody like her is there. And there's also the unconscious bias of that, the racial connotations and things that we want to cut.
And I suppose I'm really conscious that, you know, I mean, Ireland's a complicated place because it's you know, there's a sense of it being having been colonised by the English. There's lots of complicated histories and suppressed narratives, but it's how do we platform those suppressed narratives, and how do we spotlight best teaching practices? How do we genuinely conduct and fund research into this, which is really crucial, because I'm very conscious that when we have to do feedback information in terms of what the student population looks like, or what actually the design sector looks like, you know, trying to look at that sort of that demographic shift, trying to look at actually what is the proportion of female designers, designers of colour, where are the issues, how is this sort of segregated? We don't have the data, you know, and the first steps are actually starting to do genuine in-depth research. And, you know, we need to fund that, we need to put the supports in, because if we don't do that, you know, we're flying blind, you know, and it's really, really tricky. Mick, from, you know, as a co-founder of sort of DesignOpp, from your perspective, sort of moving forwards, and you talked about sort of decolonising the curriculum and questioning some of those sort of aspects. I'm really aware that, you know, and, you know, we've talked before about sometimes the challenge when you were, you know, studying, that it was almost like, you know, the significance of your own cultural context, where you came from, was often sort of questioned, or it's like, you know, if you say, why are you looking at this? You need to sort of fit in, you know, to a certain sort of model. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that, and I suppose how you've tried to address that in your own creative practice?
You know, as someone who was born in Africa and then coming here to Ireland, you have challenges of trying to fit in terms of culture. And then you have that challenge as well to keep your culture so that you don't forget where you come from. So you're caught in the, like, it's a 50-50, it's a catch-22 situation where you don't know what to do. Am I moving or am I staying back? So when you try and create what you have learned from a tender age as a kid and bring it into design, and then you're looked upon like, we don't know this type of design, because design has been molded into like this, that this is Bauhaus, this is Swiss design, and nothing else. So with this, what we're trying to achieve here with DesignOpp and all other things, decolonizing the creative industry, the modules, the curriculum, is to say all design is welcome. We don't want gatekeepers to say this is the right thing. And funny thing, I was just doing research yesterday. There's a gentleman from my country who went to America. He had a successful career there. When he went back, he started his own design school, and he ran it for 20 years. When he was being interviewed, the funny thing that he mentioned, he said, with all the challenges, he wasn't getting any funding from anyone. He lasted for 20 years, which is quite great, because it lasted more than the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus was only for 17 years. But apparently, no one knows about his work. But he had a design school that lasted 20 years. And he's written books in typography, African typography and African design, which I believe if we have this opportunity, we're going to try and bring designers maybe from Asia, designers from Africa, designers from Brazil, to share their design as well, so that any student or anyone who's involved in design can feel free to design freely without boundaries of the Swiss and the Bauhaus.
Thanks, mate. I'm sort of conscious we've got an audience here. I'm just going to throw it open to the floor. If anybody has any sort of questions for Jacinda, Mick, Greg, or ourselves, sort of warmly welcome something. So, yeah.
You were saying the IDI and having to listen to designers of color and receptive to the feedback. And I suppose just touching on what Nick was saying earlier about if people of color are actually in positions of power, is it enough just to listen to what the community are saying, or like, do we need to be a lot more active about actually putting people in positions of power or decisions being made, and even in the academic context of those, then even just with the applications process to college, like if you have designers who like kind of grow up in a very like white European-centric model of design, how do they even recognize what good design is, or like you're kind of trying to see a certain someone's going to get in and how, yeah, sorry.
Well, certainly, I mean, certainly, I think in terms of developing our relationship with Greg and Mick and the whole DesignOps team, I suppose I'm very conscious that, we have a faculty that is maybe gender balanced, but certainly isn't ethnically balanced and isn't representative of New Ireland. And when developing this, what's very clear, I'm I suppose a middle class or upper class, privately educated, white male, heterosexual, it's been easy for me. And I'm not the right person to write these programs. But what's really important is to try to sort of platform you guys and basically give you the opportunity to do that. And it's a way of trying to very quickly, and we have to do it quickly, and we have to break things, because we can't just listen. You're absolutely right. We have to empower, and we have to, facilitate you guys, and the wider community to do this stuff. And we can't be the gatekeepers anymore. And I'm very aware, the IDI is a similar situation, just trying to sort of platform, the IDI, the IDI to platform DesignOps and other designers from diverse sort of backgrounds. We have a large sort of traveller community in Ireland that have had a very difficult time engaging with third level education, with lots of initiatives to support that. And it's really important that, that we do sort of address that.
Yeah, yes.
Just to add on to your question as well, on how we can bring people of color or POCs to the table. That's how I'm looking at it, so that decisions can be made easy. There are certain countries that we can borrow ideas from. If you look at, I will use South Africa because that was the last country in the world to be colonized, and they gained their independence in 1994. So with South Africa, there was a lot of in power, there was a lot of imbalance, like in terms of their wealth and everything. And what they ended up coming up with, they came up with if you can Google, it's called BEE, the Black Empowerment Initiative. So what it does, it's like, let's say if you have a business company, they look at how many people of color you employ. When I say people of color, POCs, people are graded in terms of, if you are black, maybe the company gets 50 points. You get an Indian, it's 40 points, and the Chinese national is 40 points. Maybe you get a colored person, which is a mixed race person, the company gets 45 points. So the more you get people from that, you get like I think a government tax, brought down, or you get funding based on how many people you're empowering. So if we can borrow something of that nature, maybe say, okay, fine, this is NCAD, we want to see how many people of color they can be like a staff or diverse group can be brought in there. We have to have a quota that we say, we look at all colleges in Ireland. How many lecturers of color do you have before we give you a stamp of approval as a diverse university? If it's a design studio or any company that works with marketing, especially with marketing, because I just showed you what has happened in the industry, things that break societies. That's a danger to society when you have companies doing such campaigns. And people are frustrated already, especially with the current situation that we have. Things are expensive. People are bored, they're frustrated. They can go around and start breaking things over. So we need to protect the marketing, the branding side of things and say, we need to see if you have people of color in your teams. Or if you don't have people of color, can you hire out a company that can come and help with the auditing of your campaigns? Thank you. Thanks. As well with education and auditing as well.
Yeah. Another question from the floor, thanks.
In our friends one way or still what's the issue differences physically and in terms of education very key but unfortunately just being cautious and not having the actual means to build in the basic needs of I have to stay at home because but I think it really is something that is taught, not actually about sometimes. So I think the best basis to do it is show your own basis in your own child to socially to
that is a great point, and I think as a father of a daughter of colour and a son of colour as well, and my daughter is in her school. She's the only child of colour in her school, and she, at the age of 6, they get to notice the difference. And I've always said, you know, as I said, I've been here 24 years, and I've seen changes in our society of people of colour coming over and me being mistaken for somebody here and here, or from this country or from that country. But I do think, yeah, you are right. We can race or change in people's perspective of other nationalities and races is that needs to start with children. It's to start the same as design education. Needs to start early, so they grow up without being having, I suppose, a lens of people, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not parallel as well. Everybody becoming racist, parents, that's basically actually true else. But you have to look at the bigger picture as well. That there is a lot of change, and but I have a massive in trying to get the ball rolling on the politics. But I think it's just really something that I think it's something that like it's really hard what we're hearing about.
Yeah, I think mental health is a massive thing. I think we're all looking at design and designers, but not how the student presents in the college. What's their life like outside of them? That then can dictate how the student performs, how the lecturer performs. So those are important issues as well, looking after the mental health as well. And there's lots of social issues outside that create barriers, not only in design, but so those need to be addressed as well.
Yeah, no, it's entirely ecosystem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Jacinda, I'm thinking, sort of nodding vigorously. Is there something you'd like to add into the conversation?
I hope you guys can hear me okay. I'm trying to
Yeah.
listen patiently. I just really wanted to speak to some of the other factors that are involved when we talk about why there is a lack of representation. And you can't ignore the social impact things that are happening, right? The health disparities, the education disparities. It doesn't hurt anything that design is already a very ambiguous field. It's very ambiguous looking, right? Like when you say a designer, it's like, are you making a widget? You're gonna go to a factory? Are you dribbling a ball? What is that? And so that makes it very difficult. That makes it a very difficult selling point. And then honorable mention, I want to just say that as designers, we have been pretty pitiful with telling our stories. We are not telling our own stories. And so the things that need to be passed down to the next generation are not always happening. Now, luckily, there's this thing called the internet. And so it's getting better, but there is still much, much work to do. And so that's ultimately why I thought that having the framework would be something that even if I wasn't there to speak to it, there would be visuals that also support the framework. And it is all, outlined in my thesis work and things like that. But I know that with the traction and the interest that I've been receiving throughout the last 5, almost 10 years now of the framework, it's really beginning to take root. And I would love to be able to continue to work with you all to see and to share how it can be applied and implemented.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jacinda, and we will take you up on that offer. We'll try to get you over as soon as possible. Okay, look, I'm sort of conscious of the time, and we said we'd sort of wrap up well before now. What I'd like to do is just, I suppose, thank Jacinda for dialing in. You were very patient with some of our sort of technical gremlins. It's always challenging with this live stream and everything, but thanks so much, Jacinda. So, I suppose I'd like to thank Neve and the IDI for your sort of ongoing support. And obviously, they're one of our sort of institutional partners in the development of the Creative Futures Academy and supporting, I suppose, reimagining sort of creative curricula across all of the sort of design disciplines. And lastly, really just to thank Mick and Greg and Grace and the wider DesignOpp team. It's absolutely fantastic working with you guys. I think it's really important that we try to tackle these things. And, I can see Jacinda going, and it's this. So, yeah, it's brilliant. So, thanks very much.